faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound. Look, up in the sky. It's a bird. It's a plane. It's Superman. Yes, it's Superman, strange visitor from another planet who came to Earth with powers and abilities far beyond those of mortal men. Superman, who can change the course of mighty rivers, bend steel in his bare hands, and who, disguised as Clark Kent, mild-mannered reporter for the great metropolitan newspaper, fights a never-ending battle for truth, justice, and the American way. I did not set up Liam for this, did I? Is that crazy or what? When I saw him in that cape, I was like, this is so cool. George Reeves played the role of Superman in the 1952 to 58 TV series. And one of my favorite make-believe costumes as a child, as a 5-year-old, was to put on my Superman cape. And whenever I slipped into my blue pajamas and tied on that cape with the wonderful yellow background with the red S and the blue, I became Superman. I was Superman. And without the cape, I was Clark Kent, the mild-mannered reporter with the Daily Planet. It feels like it was only yesterday. I remember balancing on the swing in our backyard in Virginia on my tummy. And I would give myself a push, and I was flying. I was Superman. There was no doubt about it. And when Dad came home from work, I would run toward him with my 60-pound body and try to lift up his 240-pound frame because I knew Superman could do anything. And whenever I was not able to get Dad up off the ground, he would just jump a little bit, and then he'd go, "Whoa, you are awesome." Our mission and music trip, youth and adults, arrived home from Colorado Springs yesterday, and it was such a joy to follow the group this week and to see about and read the blog about their work. They did remarkable service, and they inspired with beautiful music. Last year, they were in Louisville, Kentucky, the home of Muhammad Ali, the 3-time heavyweight boxing champion. And he used to claim superhuman strength. Some of you will remember that he would say things just like he was Superman. Ali was once on an airplane that was taxiing for takeoff, and the flight attendant looked down at his lap and saw that he had not buckled his belt and said, "Mr. Ali, you need to buckle your seatbelt." And he said, "Superman don't need no seatbelt." And then she looked at him and she said, "Yes, but Superman don't need no airplane." And so he laughed and he buckled it. Though Ali was never one who lacked self-confidence, I found it absolutely inspirational when he lit the torch at the 1996 Olympics in Atlanta. The tremors that were caused by his severe Parkinson's disease did not stop him. Let's watch.
But look who gets it next. The greatest. Oh, my. Once the most dynamic figure in sports, a gregarious man, now trapped inside that mask created by Parkinson's syndrome. So in one sense a poignant figure, but look at him. Still a great presence. Still exuding nobility and stature. And the response he evokes is part affection, part excitement, but especially respect. What a moment. Muhammad Ali, of course, an Olympian, as young Cassius Clay, gold medal boxer, 1960, the Games of Rome.
To become arguably the most famous person on this earth.
Most famous person on this earth. Interesting statement. I think Liam is the most fascinating person, and Kate. I mean, okay, we'll get there. It is ironic that Christopher Reeve, the actor who starred in the Superman movies of the late 70s and the 80s, suffered permanent paralysis from a broken neck. And George Reeves, who played Superman in the 1950s, took his own life in 1959. It does not take much for us to realize we are only human. We are human beings, not unlimited. We have our limitations. In Psalm 9, as Melanie read, we find affirmation of this fact. The psalmist wants everyone to acknowledge that God alone is without limits. God alone is our stronghold. God alone is the one who is superhuman, in whom we put our trust. God alone consistently hears the cries of the oppressed, particularly babies at our southern border. Not only do human beings need to realize our limits, the psalmist calls for nations to realize that we are only human. Only human. The kings and princes, queens and princesses, presidents and vice presidents and prime ministers and chairmen on the world stage, all nations and all national leaders need to realize that they are only human. There are limits to the control and power that nations and national leaders have. The psalmist encourages the Lord to show the nations that they are only human. This is good for nations to realize. Only God is God. We are not God, nor are the nations in which we cherish our citizenship. Those nations are not God. An executive order is an executive order. Only God is God. In Mark chapter 4, the disciples are convinced of their being only human. When the storm arises and the boat begins to be swamped by the waves, they don't know what to do. They reach out into their grab bag of human resources and they run out of ideas, and that's the moment that they wake Jesus. Have you ever been awakened from a power nap too early? The person who awakens us just might get a rather grumpy response. On many Sunday afternoons as our children were growing up, they knew that I would come home from church, we'd eat a quick sandwich or something, and I would sit down and turn on NFL football. And about 2 minutes after it started, I'd be asleep. I was just out of it. And they thought I was oblivious to what was going on in the room, but they would sneak in and get the remote, and they'd change the channel. And when they did, I woke up. And I was not very nice. Jesus is asleep. He's taking a power nap. And the disciples are scared, so they shake him awake. Teacher, is there nothing is it nothing to you that we're sinking? And Jesus wakes and rebukes the wind and the waves. I love the way Melanie did it. Peace. Be still. In the Message version, Jesus tells the wind to pipe down and says to the sea, quiet, settle down. And the wind and the sea obey him. And then he turns to his crew, his disciples, and says, why are you afraid? Do you still have no faith? My response would have been most likely, but Jesus, we are only human. Remember Psalm 9, only God is God and we are human. And if I was there, Jesus would probably have said to me, yes, Fred, you are only human, but you are called to be a person of faith. You are called to tap the resources that are available to you from above. With me in your life, you are able to do more than your limited human resources provide. Do you believe me? To you and me this morning here at Grace Covenant in Overland Park, Jesus is saying, do you believe me? Do we believe that Jesus wants us to be superhuman through faith? Does this mean that we will be able to leap off over the Kaufman Center in a single bound? Does this mean that we are going to be more powerful than a BNSF locomotive? Does this mean that we will be faster than a speeding bullet expelled from its casing by gunpowder produced at Hodgdon Powder Company in Shawnee? Does this mean that we will give up our mild-mannered lives in Johnson County and become supermen and superwomen and Wonder Woman? No. But it does mean that we will call on Jesus for the resources, the strength to go beyond our human limitations with the help of God. What do I mean? In the course of life, we all encounter tough times, and in those times, we are most aware of our human limitations. We may feel helpless in the face of disease or failing health or broken marriages or estranged children or insensitive employers. In those times when the limits of humanity stare us square in the face, Jesus has a word for us that will stretch us, strengthen us, empower us. Let me explain, but I need your help. I'm going to describe a situation, and when you hear the question, what does Jesus say? Please respond, peace, be still, have faith. Peace, be still, have faith. These are the words that Jesus said in that storm-tossed boat, and these are the words that he says when we are storm-tossed. He looks at our raging storms and says, hush, be still. And then Jesus turns to you and me and he says, have faith. Peace, be still, have faith. Please do it with me. Peace, be still, have faith. Again, peace, be still, have faith. A student says, I wish my parents didn't fight so much. A lot of my friends' parents have divorced. I hope that doesn't happen. But if it does, how can I handle it? I'm only human. What does Jesus say? Peace, be still, have faith. A woman says, work is unmanageable. They want me to do more than I can possibly do. They won't hire anyone to fill 2 positions that are vacant, and they keep putting more work on my desk. Should I look for another job? I'm so unhappy. If I do start searching, will God guide me? I don't know what to do. I'm only human. And what does Jesus say? Peace, be still, have faith. June Lorenzo, a Native American and a member of the Laguna United Presbyterian Church in Santa Fe Presbytery, spoke to our Presbyterian Church's General Assembly this week in St. Louis. June called on Presbyterians to repudiate the doctrine of discovery, a papal declaration that gave permission for European explorers to overtake indigenous peoples and their land. And this doctrine is what drove Europeans westward in America, claiming land that was rightfully owned by Native Americans who were pushed onto reservations in some of the most arid regions of these United States. And June Lorenzo has called on the church to acknowledge its part in the doctrine of discovery, to advance mission work among Native Americans, and to never, never, never call immigrants invaders and treat America as if it is the country of white Europeans. It was never our country till we pushed some people away. What does Jesus say? Peace, be still, have faith. The Reverend Peg True, honorably retired member of National Capital Presbytery, arrived in St. Louis at the General Assembly on Friday. She loved this national gathering, and soon after disembarking the plane, Peg fell and had a traumatic brain injury from which she did not recover. And her pastor, David Ensign, and her brother and sister-in-law held her hand as Peg stepped over into heaven in a St. Louis hospital. How does one bid farewell to a saint? Our hearts are happy and sad at the same time. What does Jesus say? Peace, be still, have faith. An older man says, I asked my granddaughter if there was a special man in her life. She paused then and she told me that she is gay and that there is a very special woman in her life. Homosexuality was not acceptable when I was growing up, he says, but I love her so much. I don't know if I will say or do the right thing. I'm confused about how to honor her, and I'm just learning about the LGBTQIA+ communities. I'm only human. What does Jesus say? Peace, be still, have faith. A multilinguist, educator, published author, motivational speaker, gifted artist, beautiful mother, resilient military wife, dedicated community builder, and fabulous cook has faced horrific storms in her life. But Poppy Zurcher, one of our Grace Covenant members, is strong. A recent article about her in the Johnson County Lifestyle was written, and it said, having lived with different forms of cancer since childhood and coming from a culture in Greece where no one speaks of this disease, Poppy was determined to be the voice in teaching people the importance of awareness, early detection, and seeking the appropriate doctor necessary for your specific cancer. As a child, Poppy had very painful juvenile sarcoma. Though her papa tried faithfully, they did not have the money or the means to provide for her treatment. So when she was 13, a couple from the United States adopted Poppy. And in the article, Poppy said, my papa had worked very hard and taught me how to focus away from my pain by teaching me to bake bread. So when I was adopted, he asked my new parents to promise him that they too would make sure and keep me busy when I was in pain. They kept their promise, and they introduced me to my English teacher in the midst of surgeries and chemo for my leg, and that is when I learned English. I now talk to friends dealing with cancer and stress the importance of not being idle during this terrible journey, but to stay focused and busy within reason, of course. Having lived with cancer for over 50 years, having exemplified the motto, celebrate life every day, it is still hard. Poppy is currently recuperating from shoulder surgery and will face a total shoulder replacement. Extensive chemotherapy treatments since she was 13 have made her bones brittle. And when Poppy faces a storm-tossed day or a pain-filled night, she might whisper, I'm not a hero. I'm only human. And what does Jesus say? Peace, be still, have faith. We say, I'm only human. We're only human. Yes, we are. But what does Jesus say? Peace, be still, have faith. Jesus says to you and me, you are human. You have limits. But when storms arise in your life and you are being swamped by situations beyond your control, trust me. Lean on me. Let me catch you when you fall. Let my peace flow over you. Peace, be still. Have faith. What does Jesus say? Peace, be still. Have faith. One more time. Peace, be still. Have faith. Let us pray. Help us face life's storms with your peace and stillness, Lord, and fill us with faith. Amen.